Heya, my name is Mayo, and I'm a pixel artist. Today I'm going to show you how to get into pixel art, what software to use, and some general tips and tricks when it comes to shading and line work. Also, this is the first time I've ever actually made a script for a video, so if I sound uncomfortable, it's only because I am. First, let's consider your program. There's a great video about pixel art programs made by Brian James Greener on YouTube that goes a little bit more in depth about more programs, but I'll list the best ones off here. First, there's Piskel. This could be the program to dip your toes into pixel art. It's free and runs in your browser, so you don't have to worry about any payments or downloads. It has a few pretty cool features, and I've heard the animation functionality is pretty good. Next is Sprite, my software of choice. It's 20 bucks, and it's pretty much all you'll ever need for pixel work. It's very easy to learn, but still plenty of features. Next is Photoshop and Krita. I'd only recommend these two if you're already very familiar with them for art. I own Photoshop, but Sprite was infinitely more comfortable to me when I first tried it. Also, the footage on display is from Brandon James Greener again, because I didn't want to use Photoshop. Now, when you make a new file in your respective program, obviously you're asked to put in a size. To put this in perspective, Mega Man Sprite is around 32 by 32. I usually like 64 by 64, but a lot of pixel artists like to make huge canvases to experiment on. For beginners, I'd recommend smaller pixel art. When I was starting out, I decided to try out a bigger canvas, and I made this. The reason why this sucks so bad is because I skipped the smaller canvases, thus never learned the rules that come with pixel art. I was trying to apply my technique that I've used for my regular art to pixel art, so it's a good idea to shrink your scope first to easily learn the fundamentals. So, you've got your program, you've got your size, now you're ready, but there's one problem left. You don't know what colors to use. This is where your palette comes in. For beginners, I'd recommend grabbing them off LawSpec, as it stores some really neat colors. If you're looking for the one I use, it's Journey by Pineapple on Pizza, link in the description. However, if you want to make your own, I'm gonna give you a nifty little tutorial right now. Alright, hello. So I'm gonna teach you how to make a quick palette. So let's say you want to make an apple. You've got to make a nice red palette. Well, Sprite has these nifty little tools right up here that allow you to make your own little palette. So let's go ahead and unlock all the colors so we can actually edit them. We're going to select our medium tone red, what most of the apple's going to be made out of. So what you're going to do is you're not going to go all the way up here to the brightest red, because that makes it look really, really stark, and nothing in real life is colored this way. Unless you're talking like big red light bulb, you should never ever use the top corner up here. Depends on the vibe of your picture, but you're gonna drag it down to something maybe over here, around here, any of these little places. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna select some color right there. There you go. And that is your midtone in your canvas. I usually just like to put one pixel down there just to be able to see what they look like together. And now that we've got our midtone, I'm gonna go ahead and actually copy this with Control C and Control V. I'm gonna now select a darker tone. Something that you should do when getting darker tones is actually take your hue, which is down here, and you're just gonna bring it down a little bit to any direction. You could do it this way, I guess, if you wanted to, but most of the time with red, it looks a little bit nicer if you go down into the purplish magenta territory, and obviously bring the color down. And this is called hue shifting. Now that we've got our hue shifted, we select our color, put that right there, and there we go. We've got our new tone. I'm gonna make it one more darker tone. We're gonna hue shift it even more and bring it down there. A little too dark. So now got this nice little gradient right here. And I'm gonna make a highlight, like maybe I'm gonna make it a little bit more yellow because the other one's hue shifted that way. I'm gonna do one that's an in-between between the highlight and the midtone. Alright, so now that we've got our highlights, our midtones, our whole thing, I'm gonna just quickly make one for the green for the leaves. So I quickly just made a green palette for our leaf and just hue shifting it into more of a bluish kind of thing. So now that we've got our palette, we can move on to some different things. Now you've got your palette, you're finally ready to start, but how do you start? What do you even do? How do you shade? How do you make lines? I'll show you right now. Alright, so I'm going to teach you how to make an apple. Feel free to follow along. I've linked to this palette in the description, and the size of this is 32 by 32. So follow along, or don't, just watch. Do whatever you'd like. Let's start from scratch. Alright, now I've got my palette. Now I'm going to make an apple. So actually I'm just gonna add one more tone because I'm gonna make an outline for this apple, and you never ever want your outlines to be exactly stark black. You always want a little bit of color, a little bit of grays in there. You never ever want anything to actually be at any corner of this color wheel. You always want it to be somewhere in here. So I'm gonna do kind of a bluish color for our outline. And what I always like to do when I start out is to make a silhouette. Let's start with the silhouette of this apple. You can make a silhouette, or you can just start with the outlines if you really want to. I just prefer to start with a little silhouette. So as you can see, it's a little bumpy, a little rough, and we'll deal with that later. Also, it's nice to have a reference. I actually have one right here. Don't keep this part in. If you do that, that'll suck, and everyone will know that I actually did not prepare to have a reference. All right. Yep, I have completely prepared reference on my second monitor. So what you're gonna want to do is you're just gonna want to make your shape just what you think the apple should look like. Mine is very bumpy. That was not my intention, but we will fix that later. If you see me zooming in and zooming out a lot, that's just because in Pixelart, it's very nice to get a view of your art zoomed out constantly. So what you're gonna want to do now is you're just gonna want to fill in the silhouette or your outlines that you made. You're just gonna want to fill it in so that you've still got your outline there. So now that you got it filled in, you might start to notice some bumps and bruises along your outline. These are called jaggies. Stuff like this over here, this right here. These can be very, very detrimental and make it look overall less quality. So what you're gonna want to do is just iron them out. Just do some quick fixes. This one right here, I could do some stuff over here just to add a little bit more kind of professionalism to the picture. So now that you've smoothed up your jaggies, your jagged lines, now you can start work on your apple. So we're just gonna shade it right along here. Just add a nice curvature bowl right around here. And then make sure the same way you smoothed out the outline, you smooth this out too. So once you've got it nice and smooth like that, you're going to want to add your next tone. Where do we add it? How do we add this? So what you're most likely going to want to do is do something like this, where you've got your color is like, oh, it gets darker as it goes down, so I'm gonna add my second color. But you shouldn't do this. This is called banding, and it's very, very bad. I mean, you can use banding sometimes if you're very good in some specific scenarios, but overall, this is not the look you want to be going for. But if you can't do that, where do you put your second tone? Well, I will show you. So what you're gonna want to do is add something that we like to call anti-aliasing. That sounds very scary, I know, but it's actually a little bit simple once you get down to it. So as you can see, we are someplace new. I've made a new little circle. It's not perfect looking, but I'm going to add some anti-aliasing to this. What anti-aliasing is it's basically smoothing out your artwork by adding in little in-between notes. Why did I say note? It's a pixel. To just make it a little bit more smooth. And this is something you've kind of got to get the hang of as you go along. You've just got to put some little dots, this is a little too much right here, around your piece, make it that much more smooth, and give it a little touch of professionalism again. So we're gonna go back to our apple. How can we apply anti-aliasing to this? So what I'm gonna actually do is apply anti-aliasing to the shading. Just like that, and then I'm gonna fill in the rest of this. So as you can see, we've got this kind of more fuzzy looking shading, a little bit more sophisticated. And actually, right now I'm noticing this tone is a little too saturated for my liking, so I'm gonna bring it like something over there. Yeah, that looks good. Just editing the tone. And now we can add those highlights. The apple I've got in my reference picture kind of has this little top lip right here, and then has a shine over here and a shine over here. So let's add our little highlights. Okay, so now we've got our highlights, and as you can see, I've also kind of slimmed this around because the apple didn't really look too realistic. So now that we've got our highlights, what we can do is actually use anti-aliasing on this as well. Alright, so I'm going to add little nodes. Seriously, why do I keep saying no? And now you don't have to do it quite as much as me. Sometimes people think I'm doing it too much, and that's probably true. But you can just do it at your own pace. You know, you don't have to do it as fast or as much or as cool and awesome as me. But I think we're almost finished. All we have to do is add the stuff. So I'm gonna make something that kind of has like a fold, a crease right along here. But obviously that crease would be brighter since the sun is going this way, just like that. Since this wouldn't be exactly flat, I'm gonna make a little bit of a dip right in here, and also a line signifying like this leaf. This is a leaf. So now that we've got our little leaf here, you can see it's all kind of starting to take shape. So what I'm gonna actually do as one last finishing touch is I'm actually gonna add a little bit of color to these lines, just to accentuate that shading one step more. So I'm gonna add this lighter color onto where the highlight is. For the rest of it, I'm gonna use this darker color up until we reach the shade that we made. So down here, around here, I'm gonna skip this area because the leaf might be casting like a shadow on it or something. So now that we've gotten our shading done, I've also added a little background. As you can see, I'm going to actually add anti-aliasing to the lines around here. See, on these straight edges, I'm not putting any on it, because if I had to, I'd have to put it all around the whole thing, and that would be a little much, and to make it a little bit more blurry. I'm also going to add a little bit of anti-aliasing inside of the apple, where we made this line here. Alright, and I think this is just about done. So you don't have to be as heavy with the anti-aliasing as I have been, but again, it's whatever you want to do. It's your art. You don't have to put any anti-aliasing. You could make the entire apple freaking green or whatever. Wow, imagine that, a green apple. That would be crazy. No one's ever done that before. Wow, but yeah, let's move back to the scripted me. And that's all I really need to start Pixelart. Side note, the single largest source of improvement for me was through the Pixelart Discord. I'm not a mod, nor was I asked to promote it, but it offered me a great deal of help. If you want to join it, the link will be in the description. Let me know in the comments how your Pixelart came out. If this was helpful, it would be epic pog sauce to give a like. If it was really helpful, subscribe for Pixelart gaming and other dumb shit. Anyways, bye-bye.